So, hey, this is Queer from the British Blacklist, and this is our out of 100 review of Jordan Peele's new film, Us. I'm joined by some wonderful ladies in the room and one lovely lady on the phone. If you can all introduce yourselves, and then we'll get cracking.
Hi, I'm Shahidi.
I'm Stephanie.
I'm Toby.
I'm Priscilla.
And I'm Jo.
Hi, everybody. So, first initial thoughts. Well, actually, I should overview what Us is about. So, Us is Jordan Peele's second film after Get Out. It's a horror. It stars Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, Shahidi Wright, and
Evan Alex.
Yeah.
that's the one, Evan Alex. These are the four main cast, and they play the Wilsons, who basically holiday in an American resort town, and lots of weird things happen, revealing a netherworld of doppelgangers, which are freaky, scary, and a kind of metaphor on America, if you like, and its state of play today. What did you guys initially think about Us? Anyone can speak and say your name when you're speaking.
Hi, this is Toby. I was very scared at first because I was told that it was a horror movie, and I knew that, Jordan Peele, I knew he was going to make it really scary. For him to say that, Get Out was a documentary and it was kind of scary, in my mind, I was like, Us is going to be very, very, a real thriller. But then I kind of laughed quite a lot. and so it really, maybe because I had such high, I was really panicked. I don't think you understand. I don't like horror. So to go there and laugh, it was kind of like, okay, cool.
It took away the scary bits.
Yeah, it did. It made everything calm.
Anyone?
I went to watch it with Toby, and I was laughing. I don't mind horror, so I just found it a lot of it's quite funny because I thought that it's not realistic, but I just thought like if I was thinking logically, if I was in that position that she was in, I was just like, I wouldn't have done that. I would have done this.
But I think isn't that the standard of every film? And I think with horrors, I personally wasn't sure what to expect. I already knew. Okay, maybe I should ask you guys what your expectations were, because I went in thinking, okay, this is going to be Jordan Peele's second follow-up. We anticipate, because it's Lupita also being in the lead for the first time, a proper lead for the first time, and we're actually seeing her do something. So I had all that kind of expectation, but I had already been prepared that it wasn't going to be like Get Out. It wasn't going to be about race. It's going to be something else. I wondered about the horror part of it. I had faith that Jordan was going to do a good film. I don't like horrors either, because I don't understand paying to be scared. And generally, horror films are not good, in my opinion, because they either don't scare you or they're just so implausible that it's like, this is so dumb. So I figured it was going to be good, and I wanted to gauge how scared I would be. But I did jump, and I was scared, but I think it was more creepy than actually...
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I think for me, I only saw the trailer and was unsettled by that. And I was like, I don't like horror movies, but I really want to see this movie. And I purposely didn't read anything about the movie, so I just knew that a family goes somewhere and then they've got doubles, and this is weird. So when I went in, I was fully prepared to be like watching through my fingers, and then I was kind of like, the woman next to me was doing more of that than me. I was kind of, okay. And like you say, it was funny, and it was a perfect counterbalance to the supposed horror. But what I did find about it is that it was very, very unsettling, because when I left, everything was just playing on my mind, and I was just like, it creeps me out, and I wasn't scared, but it made me think a lot, and just made me feel very unsettled and uneasy about a lot of things. So,
Jo, you were going to jump in?
Yeah, no, I was going to say that going in, weirdly, the thing I had in my mind was Peele's old sketch show that he did with Key and Peele, for Comedy Central, I think. I'd watched the trailer and I'd read some reviews, and they were talking a lot about how Us handles ideas of class and divisions of power, which is something that it's material that Peele's handled before in a hilarious way for Comedy Central. I think one of my favourite sketches is one where two husbands are telling each other how they call their wives. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're calling their wives bitches, but actually they can barely stand to disagree with them over what to have for dinner.
Oh yeah, they're bragging to each other, then when they're in front of them, they're actually totally different.
Yeah, literally. And that's so present in Us. the humour of it comes out of that discomfort of where power lies and how it's transitioned. So you have moments like Gabe buying a speedboat to impress the Tylers, the White family, or the dynamics between the doppelgangers. And I think part of the reason why it's so creepy is because you can identify with it because of that humour. You can really see it in real life. That's actually what happens.
So let's talk about the themes of the film that came out that stood out for you. What about the significance of the black family? Because there's been a lot placed on before with the trailers. Again, everyone's like, oh my God, it's a black family. It's a black family. We have black children, dark-skinned husband and wife, and it's not the random light-skinned daughter, as everyone's made jokes about. Everyone is a variation of dark skin. What was the significance to any of you for the black family before anything in a horror film?
Okay, so my thoughts were initially, before seeing the film, was that, oh snap, you see, for centuries, for a long time, we've gotten away of not being in these kind of movies, and life has been fine because we watch it and go, yeah, that won't happen to us, we're not white. Now you've kind of put us in the centre of this movie, and now we can't escape from it. So I was like, damn it. And so I was really excited because, yeah, it was a black family doing things that we don't see black families do generally in movies. And I think for a lot of people, because it was a black family, automatically the movie has to be about race, and then there's lots of arguments around that. And I was like, well, I think that speaks to more of our expectation that when you see a black family in a movie or in a TV show, the central theme of it is generally race, whereas in this movie it wasn't. This movie could be cast with anyone. It could have been a white family in this movie.
So agree with that.
And I so think that if it was a white family, nobody would be talking about race. Everyone would be like, oh my God, isn't that so terrible? They had this double family coming to kill them and all the rest of it. Whereas here, because it's a black family, the conversations around race, I'm thinking it's a lot more nuanced than that, I think the movie is. But it was actually really refreshing just to see a black family doing things that black people do, go on holiday with the family, having the usual kind of power dynamics between the husband and wife and the kids playing up and what have you, and then getting thrust into this really kind of awful situation and fighting to survive. We don't get to see that, and yes, my earlier statements kind of knocked out the park because now we're not longer safe, but in a way that's kind of good because at least we're not one-dimensional people anymore. We're multifaceted. We can do other things. We can be in other places.
I did think it was odd though. I did think some things were odd. Like, didn't feel like a typical black family to me. So like the dad, for example, just like I just thought he was just so sneaky. Like, I was just like, he's not believable for me. The daughter was probably the most believable. Resonated with her position and what she was saying. I believed her more than anyone. But yeah, just some parts I was just like, nah, I hear what you're saying in terms of like it could be anyone, but I just don't think they were black. Right. That's how I felt about it. And I do have a bit of a theory about this that I've been looking up. But even when he was, I think Adelaide was clicking her fingers to the beat, and she was clicking off beat. So it was the son. Like, it was just like, what is it? But
that was deliberate, though.
I know it was deliberate, but the husband didn't pick up on that, the daughter didn't pick up on that. That was just weird. And I was looking around like, can no one hear or feel this? This is weird.
So I want to jump in, but I want to let the younger people have a comment. What did you guys think about the family?
I agree in terms of the dad. Instantly, when I heard his voice, I just thought, I feel like his character was really right in terms of like the accent and the way he was coming off. But then, obviously, when they did the whole beach scene and they met the other family, I could kind of see maybe where they were going with it, like in terms of, okay, you know, the people that he's around with at work and he's trying to like press them, getting the whole boat thing. And so I think that maybe explained it a little bit for me. And especially like the scene where he came up the house when he first saw the family, then he dropped his voice. He was like, "Oh, get off my lawn!" And I was like, "Okay, now you're trying to be black." But it's like before, you know, him for me was just, he didn't suit that little dynamic of the family. But I believe like the son and the daughter. I really like the daughter. She was my favorite character, to be honest.
For me, it's interesting because it raises questions about what is blackness. Because all of you have said, or not all of you, some of you said that he's not a typical black guy. He's not black enough. But then this is something that's leveraged against black people who speak well, black people who are educated, black people who are geeky or neeky, as you said, and it's like, what's the parameter? What is the
But I guess what I'm saying is just like not typical. I just don't think I think that's a type, but it's just not typical.
And
do you see what I mean?
Because of that, it pulled. Sorry, I was just saying, because of that, it made you feel like it wasn't believable. But yet, just to say before you jump in, Joe, that when I met Jordan Peele,
Drop that name in there.
just want to say, so when I met Jordan Peele, we just had a catch up. But when I met him, he speaks exactly like Winston Duke, and in the character as Gabe, his voice is like that, and he was quite in the conversation we had. He's like, I really hope you like it, and I'm not going to do an impression, but I really hope you like it, because I could see his kind of nervousness that people are going to respond to it the same way we responded to Get Out. So that kind of humble humility he had, or insecurity, comes through in Gabe. And when we interviewed, I interviewed Winston Duke.
Another humble brag.
Yeah, by the way. So when I spoke to Winston Duke, he said that he based the dad on TV dads. He said Bill Cosby, I think another black dad from a popular American show, I can't remember, and he also threw in Homer Simpson and some other like more generic white sitcom dads. So he pulled together those type of dads, because he said, my question to him was, in this moment of black men being portrayed as violent, aggressive and scary, what were your thoughts in bringing to life Gabe as a dad? And he was like, this is exactly why I drew Phil like a bit more goofy, a bit more lovable, a bit more fun, because we were always told that black men have to be strong, angry and powerful, whereas actually dads are not always like that. They can be, and it's changed the narrative of what a black man is or should be. And Joe, sorry, I'll let you jump in.
No, I was only going to say that I completely agree with you, and I think maybe one of the things that I really liked about Us was the doppelganger aspect. I mean, it literally makes you look twice at each character, and because the casting has been such a, I don't want to say issue because it's not an issue at all, but it's been talked about lately, you do look twice in terms of their blackness and like pointing out differences of how they move and how they speak, or at least I did, for this family that's been raised in isolation and this family that's been raised in a privileged part of America. It is valid in a way that the Winstons aren't what some people would consider authentically black, because the film is about the ways in which they try to escape a situation with their privilege intact. And it's a privilege that has been traditionally ascribed to white American families. But at the same time, I don't really think there's a way to be authentically black. I think that's a dangerous and quite damaging idea to have.
Agree. In some way, but I think
What do you mean? In what way though?
I would say that it's damaging to put limitation on what blackness is, but there's also a gauge of how black we are in different situations, maybe, because I think if we're not, because you can be deemed not black enough, and it makes sense. We can all kind of be in a room like, we know what not black enough means. However, to tell a black person who's not doing what we think is black enough that you should be more black, who are we to say? What is the benchmark of black?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
I think Stephanie had. She kind of highlighted something where you said about when he goes out to confront the doppelganger family and his voice drop, because that to me was like code switching.
Yeah.
Because it was this kind of that sense of like, you know, he's obviously, they're middle class black family, they've got a certain level of privilege and they walk and run with certain people, mostly white, I would gauge from what we've seen of them. So he's used to being very reasonable about everything. You know, he's used to like not positioning himself in a situation that's aggressive, and that's very key for black Americans as well, because if you do encounter situations where as a black man you're being aggressive, you're posturing, what have you, it can go very wrong for you very quickly. And so I can understand why he is the way he is, and in that situation it's like he comes out, first of all he's being all kind of nice, he's like, oh, can you go off our lawn please, you know, this isn't really right, you shouldn't be here. And then later on it's kind of like, okay, so I'm gonna try and be a bit more threatening, aggressive, and hopefully they'll see, oh yeah, big black man, this is scary, then we'll go. But obviously it goes all the way left for him. But I think that again, it was just that kind of thing of like kind of highlighting how the ways in different situations we do kind of change the way that we respond to people and the environment around us. And yeah, that was my point.
Do you know what one thing that stood out for Lupita being, you know, the scene where she's like, you know, in that scene actually, when she's like, look, no, it's not that one. It's when they're in the house or by the car, and she's saying, I'm taking over now. I'm going to sort things out. And that kind of made me think about, one, black feminism, two, the backlash to black feminism, the power change between the patriarchy and women in general who are trying to change the whole narrative that men's word and rule is law. And interestingly, in a black family, if we take it wider to the societal conversations about interracial dating and dating black women and dark-skinned women specifically being perceived as aggressive, masculine and hard to deal with, I wondered what that would look like, how that played out to audiences in regards to Adelaide telling Gabe, you're not the boss of things right now, I'm taking over, I'm going to run things. But at the same time, Winston Duke saying that he wanted to change the narrative about black men always having to be, you know, aggressive and leaders. Do you think any of that?
Yeah, I don't know if just like looking at this, the script, if it's written that way as well. So obviously he's bringing what he's bringing to it, but his character's just Ned Flanders. I just can't. You know, he only done that out of necessity because he's thinking, okay, like, I'm going to have to protect now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
he's never had to.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but even when
Adelaide
was talking to him about, you know, her fears and stuff, he's like...
He was oblivious.
It was the scene when he was like going, yeah, if she looks like you know, I can kick your ass.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I can handle her too. And the look she gives him, like, are you serious right now?
So I think she's just doing that. I'm not sure about the bigger kind of scheme, but I think she's doing that because she's like, we have to survive. And for her, especially, she needs to survive. That version of her needs to survive, basically.
I was going to say, because I think it was interesting casting with Winston Duke because obviously last time we saw him, he was in Black Panther, being a very, being a very, very masculine, very kind of like, I was going to say hyper masculine, but is that fair? I don't know.
I don't think he was hyper masculine, but he was just
very,
like
very
the stereotypical.
Like, I'm going to take charge of things. I'm going to kill you all, and haha, I'm joking, kind of thing. And then you see him in this, and I think maybe people coming to this expecting more of the same. And then we're like, wait, hang on a minute, he's not in Baku, he's completely the opposite. And I really liked the depiction of him, the portrayal of him in this, of that character. Because I think in movies like this, it's very easy, particularly when you've got a male director at the helm, to kind of really overemphasize the masculinity, like, oh, we're in peril, so I as the man need to kind of sort things out, protect my family at all costs, even though it's probably my stuff that got me into trouble, got you here in the first place, and my mistake, you know, but I'm still going to take credit. And actually what generally happens in movies is that it's usually the woman that does things, but the man still gets take credit. Whereas in this movie, it's like from beginning to end, it's Adelaide that's kind of like underpinning all this until, you know, to a certain point where she's kind of like, you know, gently kind of saying, oh, no, I don't think we should go to the beach. Okay, we'll go to the beach. And then halfway through, it's like, do you know what? I'm taking charge. And I think that kind of reflects what happens a lot across in society, where women do kind of tend to kind of like go, oh, do you know what? Enough's enough. We need to get shit done. And we need to do this. And I'm not going to wait around for you to kind of figure out, you know, the least course of resistance. We actually need to do stuff. And that, to me, was very telling.
So what about the significance of the white family being their friends when it doesn't seem like they're really connected? I mean, Gabe and... Gosh, I've got it, my notes here, but my phone's in use. But anyway, Gabe and the white man. I'm going to have to cut this out, find out his name because it sounds bad. Give us a pause.
Wait, it's going to take me a minute.
That's fine. I'll just cut all this bit. Oh, let's press pause a second. Okay, so... what's the significance of the white family? How do you lot feel about the fact that they weren't particularly connected to them, but they seem to have a history of holidaying with them at the very least? The girls don't get on with the daughter, really. They think the son's weird, and Josh and Gabe are waving their dicks about trying to outdo each other. And Kitty is just vacuous, and Adelaide is obviously more, well, educated or disconnected, for whatever you want to put. There's no connection there, but yet, again, it's like, what did you guys think? What did you think, Toby, of the white family in the film?
I don't know. I feel like to some extent I could relate a bit to having like family friends that you're not really friends with, but you just know them and you just constantly go on holiday with them just because of the time that you've spent with them over the years. And also I think because the dad probably works with Josh, is that his name?
Yeah.
They work together. I think
Do they work together? Are they colleagues?
Because I
missed that.
Couldn't work out why they'd be together.
To me, from my understanding of things, they work together, and he's just trying to get to his level or trying to show that they're on the same playing field. You know, that's why he got the boat and stuff like that.
Even when they took their car, you know.
And he's like, finally I get their car.
Kind of thing. So,
I thought, they were work colleagues, and Gabe is obviously more invested in the relationship than anyone else in his family.
Yeah.
It's like the rest of the family tolerate them because they have to, not because they really want to. They're like, okay, fine. Yeah.
I think he played on very actually a lot of saying that it's like Jordan Peele played on little tropes of being friends with white people, because I don't know, unless you've grown up with someone, or there's a lot of conversation about blacks and whites not being friends and not seeing each other's worlds. So that's why there's a disconnect, and that's why racism in a nutshell exists. But it's that competition with, and there's a thing like black men in society, stereotypical, are aspiring to have what the white man has. And then white women are envious of what black women have, because you see Kitty compliments Adelaide on it was just so, and I've done my little nip tuck, and Adelaide's like, yeah boy, I'm not even interested in it.
I don't even think it was like he was wanting what that guy had. It was like he was getting stuff so they could have something in common. Because like,
but this is aspiring to his lifestyle.
Even when he got the boat, he just got it so they could talk about it, just for him to tell him that he has things that on the boat that he needs. Like when he said, "Oh, do you have a flare gun though?" And he's like, "Oh, no." And he's like, "Well, you need to get one, and you're not there yet." Basically, it's like.
I all kind of thought they were kind of props as well. To be honest, I thought actually they're a bit too dimensional as well, and it was only kind of like to highlight the roles of the black family. To be honest, and I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, to be honest, but I just thought like you wouldn't have had you not seen the twins interact with the children, you wouldn't know that the son Jason, he's considered weird, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, not from outside.
That was a setup point.
Kind of thing. I thought that, and just knowing that Adelaide doesn't really talk much, she doesn't like speaking, she doesn't like interacting. Do you know what I mean? That was really kind of like establishing their characters more than.
So, Joe, you watched it and you kind of reviewed it. Do you feel like they were the Tylers were like plot points? And do you think
I that's what I felt, at least. I thought it was kind of funny. I watched the film in Oxford, and so there are a few kind of Tylers sitting around me. Maybe you'll need to cut that out, but
no, I think that's unless you don't. I mean, that's a fair point. It's a fair point.
But yeah, no, it was just really fascinating to see this family be relegated to cinematic tropes that usually are given to like the ethnic minority friend, or for women the girlfriend, or that kind of thing. I think it's really interesting material for Peele to handle because he's mixed race, and so maybe it's, I don't know, I feel like it's a more balanced scale. I don't think it's as kind of cut and dry as Get Out, where the question of interacting as an outsider, as a black person with a white family, was really the central plot point. But in this film, generally, I do think it was more like they progressed the plot, they added some humour. I think really the only point at which the Tylers got kind of added to the theme of the film was with their virtual assistant. It wasn't Alexa, it was a different name. But I think a lot of the theme of the film was sort of I can't remember which critic pointed it out, but it was the worshipping of false idols. It was that Bible verse. And I think that moment in which Kitty Tyler tries to call the police and the NWA song comes on instead, she's looking to the wrong point to help. That's the only point in the film where I think that family gets a kind of poignant moment, but otherwise the film totally belongs to the Wilsons.
I think that's a fair point.
I was actually quite shocked when they all died. Because for some reason I've lulled myself into a full sense of security, thinking that everyone's going to make it through and no one's going to die in this. They're just threatening them with this. So when they stabbed first the wife, then I was like, whoa, okay.
That was really unexpected.
And I was like,
it was so weird as well, because I think at that moment one of the daughters was saying something really annoying, and then they just came and killed her. It was like, okay, she was annoying, but I didn't want to say that.
Just, yeah, die, just
And
not like
just to
that.
add to Joy's point, that's the kind of treatment you expect for the minorities in the movie
Yeah.
to get. You know what I mean? Not the white people. And so I was kind of, whoa, okay, this shit's gone real.
So then in that, and you two were shocked, Stephanie and Toby were kind of shocked to learn that Jordan Peele's mixed race. You didn't know.
I didn't know.
But I mean, and this is something that's that plays on a creative, someone like Jordan who's doing these films. He's married to a white woman as well. How does this? And I think Winston Duke is sort of like he dates white women. That's what the socials say. I haven't seen his partner, but he's kind of in that position. What does it mean? Does it change the kind of thought process or how you understand the film or Jordan Peele's content from Get Out to Us as a mixed race man? What do you think he's trying to say? And I always wonder what his wife thinks. Because part of me feels like Jordan's has a fascination. Obviously, he's got his black side. I don't know what his world has been like being a mixed race creator, because I'm sure he's probably in spaces where he hears other conversations, as maybe us as black people, fully black people, might not be privy to, because people might not feel comfortable having those conversations in front of us. I don't know if he has a different type of access. Go on.
So I'm mixed race. And I think the thing that Peele gets really well, and the reason that I really enjoy his movies is he really gets what it's like to hop between two worlds. I think he's very good at those little subtle moments, it was pointed out earlier, of code switching, or even just sometimes of kind of keeping your head down and seeing what happens. And I think that's a theme that goes through both Get Out and Us. I really enjoy seeing the way that he balances almost the presentation of these things. I don't want to say makes them palatable, but makes them understandable, both to black audiences and white audiences. I was reading through reviews for Us this morning, and it is literally just white men reviewing this film.
Yeah.
Which I find so interesting, and they're really, like, they love it, they're eating it up. And I think maybe Peele's advantage in that sense is kind of knowing how to appeal to different audiences in a universal way.
But then go on.
So I was just going to say then, I think it's interesting that the fact that people, they love it so much. And I was just thinking, it's okay. It's just okay to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's like, you know, that there's so many holes, like plot holes, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so many unexplained things that just don't really make sense.
Yeah.
So it's not as great as it's being presented to be, I think. And it's interesting that if he was a black man or a black woman directing this, would he be afforded the same sort of, like, you know,
accolades?
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting, because also the fact that white people like it, or it's had, let's say the mainstream has reviewed it and said it's brilliant, and it's Get Out and it's brilliant, and Jordan Peele's brilliant. Are people, do you think people we as critics, even us reviewing it now and being honest about our thoughts, do you feel like people are scared to say something in this climate of diversity, and having someone like Jordan Peele be in this space and doing films that are groundbreaking, they are good, maybe everyone's, you know, a matter of opinion, even down to Black Panther, some black people are now finally saying, well, it weren't all that. It was a good film, but it's not all that. There are some black people out there starting to start talking about. What did you say there?
Yeah, I agree. It's an alright movie.
Disagree.
But it's what I'm saying. But now we're in this. I mean, because we had we had Armand, a friend of mine, Jan. Shout out Jan. She sent me an article, and I sent it to you guys this morning. That Armand White, who's notoriously a recklessly controversial black male reviewer, and he had a lot of things to say about Jordan, about us, and about Jordan Peele. But I also said, actually, I welcome a critical voice in this space, because it's not often that many of us will have the guts to say, do you have to go? Will have the guts to say, talk out against something that a black person done, or mixed race person. Everyone kind of had a collective. If Black Panther, even if it's the worst film ever, we are not going to tell the truth. We're going to say it's excellent regardless.
Yeah.
However, We do need
No,
these
I don't-
other voices.
I don't agree with that statement, but Black Panther was good. But that aside, I think I do hear what you're saying. I think
I'm asking,
I think
not
it's,
even-
I think it's difficult to actually put your voice out there and critique something, because the opportunities to have something on a platform this big, to have this kind of reach and to have this kind of promotion behind it, it's just very rare. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, and also with black content, or content that includes black people as the central piece, it kind of has to be, it almost is framed like it has to be everything to everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And like black audiences aren't just this one mass, they're very different. And, do you know what I mean? So it's very, so anyone that speaks against it is almost seen as like a hater,
a traitor.
or, do you know what I mean, kind of thing, and not pushing the culture forward. And actually, you know, we all have different we're looking at it from different positions, you know, so we can't, it's very difficult to, I think it's just very difficult to kind of put a negative opinion, or what's seen as negative opinion, out there. But I think as more content is made,
we can be more critical.
Yes, exactly. You'll see it more.
But in relation to that article, the Almond White one, I finally read all of it, and I just thought he missed the point, because he centered the movie as being about race, and I was like, I don't think the movie is about race.
No,
and I think if he just kind of went from it at the position as it's a horror movie, what do you think, kind of, and here's my thoughts, it would have been a much more stronger piece. But he just kind of biffles on about, you know, he's missed this point, and Toni Morrison was so much better, and you're like, dude, seriously. And it came across like, I just don't like Jordan Peele.
Rather than the film itself.
Rather than the film itself. And there were some bits that I actually found a bit offensive, actually, coming from him. Like, you know, the whole idea where he talks about the casting of black characters, and it's like, you know, he's deliberately cast dark-skinned characters because they're ultra black, and they're specifically black. And you're like, whoa.
However, sorry, there was a point that he made about the bug-eye, the stereotypical bug-eye look against the dark skin, and the blackface and caricatures of like the Al Jolsons and back in the day stuff. It's funny because when I saw, I think, a scene when Lupita was scared and her eyes were open, I had that thought, and I don't necessarily like the Daniel Kaluuya poster of Get Out of Just His Eyes, because it kind of makes me think of that as well. But I didn't put that on Jordan trying to laugh up that stereotype or manipulate that stereotype to make it normalised or anything. I actually thought, well, this is a send-up of something that you guys, the white entertainment world, has created, a trope that they created, this spook type thing of a black person. And I think he'd taken, like reclaiming the N-word, reclaiming that stereotype and caricature, and saying, well, this is fear, this is blackness, but this is real blackness or something. It's not to be feared, not to be parodied, but this is
about
reclaiming our power.
He was specifically talking about fear in those elements, and talking about, because I suppose in Get Out he's like talking about the fear that it is to be a black person in the first place.
Exactly.
And to a certain element, he wasn't necessarily talking about the fear as a black person in us, but just talking about fear in its more general terms. So I felt that Almond White was a bit off in his critique.
I mean, he's obviously been a bit controversial as well on purpose to get attention, but I just still think it's good to have that critical voice, because then you can also think a bit deeper about what you think. So what about plot holes? What didn't you like about the film?
The explanation as to why the tethered were there.
Yeah, that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, that didn't make sense. That didn't.
What didn't you understand?
It was like, what was she saying about the? I need a minute.
I'm trying to tell you, like, where did they get the clothes from?
Which clothes? The red jumpsuits?
Yeah, where did they get them from? Where did they get the scissors from? Like, they must have ordered that from somewhere. Who went and collected the delivery? Someone went outside.
Okay, so you guys are being really literal. Okay, what else?
I personally didn't understand how they were being created and how they were kept underground.
Where they kept from, where they came from,
where
exactly.
They actually came from, because I know that they were saying that they were in the underground sewers or something like that. But it's like, how did you get there?
So they
government
So
experiment.
it's supposed to be a government experiment. But the thing is, it's just like, okay, but like I'm tied to you, and you're over there. You're only coming to the beach because you come to the beach. So when you go home, am I under your house? Like,
No, they're stuck there. They're stuck there under the tunnels.
And they have to reenact everything that people up there do.
But it's weird. But how?
Because they're connected by their souls. They're
No, but
connected.
Why is it the person upstairs?
upstairs.
I mean, so
In
I'm
the real
thinking,
world.
I'm
In the real
thinking of
world.
it upstairs and downstairs.
Yeah, yeah.
That pretty much is.
That upstairs, yeah, they're doing the stuff and they don't like if you're when they say you're connected. I'm assuming that it's like you can feel what the other person is feeling or doing.
Not
for them to
necessarily.
copy. So how would they? How would they need to copy?
But the thing is, this is what kept on changing. So, for example, when Jason and is it Pluto?
Yes.
When they were Pluto lured them into the trap kind
Yeah.
of thing, yeah. So he was controlling his tether,
Yeah.
and in other places it was the opposite. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like,
Yeah.
how do you know when you've got control of your tether?
Yeah, 'cause there was
how can do you know what I mean? That doesn't make sense.
I wondered if it was an age thing though, because there was moments because at the beginning it seemed like the tethered were more stronger than their untethered counterparts in terms of physicality and just the way they were. They were quicker and they could move. But then with Jason and Pluto, it seemed like almost like Pluto was learning from Jason because he was mimicking everything he did, and Jason was one who was quick to catch on to that. That because when you see as well later on when things get explained and you see Red walking or Adelaide, which one, walking through the untethered underground bit, and you've got the parallel of the fairground of what the untethered the tethered are doing, so they're mimicking being on
on the carousel and all that type of stuff.
and so it's like they've got no choice but to mimic what the people above
But
them
I
do.
thought that Red lured her down there. So because she's in control.
No,
she
Red
knows-
lured it because Red took Jason.
No. I'm talking about in the
in the
beginning.
beginning.
In the beginning,
No,
she
didn't.
lured
She
her.
didn't lure her down there. What happened is
But
that
then
why
she
she
came.
went down
No,
there?
because she came. Because no. So,
So we're talking about in the beginning when
in the beginning,
when Adelaide is a little girl.
Adelaide wanders off.
Yeah.
Goes into that house of
Yeah,
mirrors.
but I think Red lured her into the
think- oh,
house
okay,
so
you think
she
she
could
lured her?
actually
To get her.
Yeah.
But
Because
the
she
thing is, I don't
realised
think-
that
I
she's
don't
got
think they knew
thingy.
about
They
each
didn't
other
know each
because
about
at
each
that
other.
No, I think Red
didn't
knew that
know.
something's up, so she's gonna try.
Well,
it.
as a little girl, you
Yeah.
think she knew.
She's evil.
I don't
man.
think. But
know, I
she's
don't
not
think she
evil
did.
though.
She
They're not
is
evil.
She's not evil.
Because it
She's
wasn't
there-
evil. Why not free them all?
Because she didn't know how it would work.
And
She was a little
selfish.
kid. I don't know.
I just think that she was just being a kid, kind of thinking,
What's this?
my-
But no, but
my
then she
life
did
would be better.
get her and drag her in.
Yeah. And she
did,
handcuffed
and
her.
she handcuffed her to the bed.
Yeah,
She's
so-
evil.
So sis knew.
So, I mean, any other holes? I mean, what?
It was. There were so many, but the thing is, I think, in terms of like a lot of horror movies and movies in general, there are always holes.
Yeah, there are.
And I
not
think
ways.
because it's fantastical,
Yeah.
it's like part of it is you have to
so,
suspend.
and so I think, and I quite like the fact that there were holes, even though it does kind of bug me, because I'm like, but I don't understand, like you going, how is this a government experiment, and how come like you
But the thing
Where
is,
does
you
this-
know what,
yeah.
actually, I did think that actually maybe Jordan's onto something here. So maybe he's doing a bit of a, I can't even think who it would be now, Quentin Tarantino, where like the idea of that all the films are actually connected and they're all
Yeah,
actually
that's
in
been
the same
spoken about.
universe,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like that experiment, the falling of that, or the problem with that experiment was that they couldn't actually get them, they couldn't separate the soul, and in
Yeah.
Get Out they managed to combine
Find a
those.
way to
Do you know
do-
what I mean?
yeah.
So maybe this is before that, and
Yeah.
this is the same people or something.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't know.
heard a reasoning that it's going to be the same world. He's toying with the idea of doing a sequel, but not anytime soon. But he is thinking about the wider world. An interview I read that he's thinking about the wider world and how they connect. But I think you guys have pointed out the things I didn't get. I think because it's horror and because it's fantastical, it's hard to be absolutely, because either if you're going to be real, then it's like, well, that means it really can happen. And I guess for films like this, there has to be
an element of
an element
suspending.
of like,
suspend
you know, this is
belief.
not real, right? Unless you really want to believe it. Do you want to
mean?
believe that we have a tethered soul?
No.
Apparently,
Hell no.
Why not? I mean, it could be.
That's just creepy because I think the thing it wasn't even scary. Yeah.
It's creepy. That's what we said.
It's creepy because especially the bit where they're all sitting on the couch and then they got the
Yeah.
tethers on the other side. If I saw a tether of myself moving like the way they were moving, I wouldn't even be listening to the explanation. I wouldn't
No, but you see how this is. You see that way it's good to have this black family as essential characters because we are so. All black people are like, I'll never do that. I'll never do this. I'll never do this. And even with Gabe, like, yeah, you want to see how crazy we are, but then you got knocked out by the quick time. Adelaide, you're sitting there, you're like, as women, we're like, nah, man, I'm gonna get my babies, I'm gonna run. But you couldn't. She had to be tactical and start. You had to let her. I don't know if I could tell my daughter to run. out of my sight.
But
I'd rather.
But also as well, but she knew
No,
that
but
she
I'd
was
be-
wrong though. She knew
Oh,
that they
she
were
knew who
coming.
she was.
Yeah,
Oh,
do you know
damn,
what
I
I
keep
mean? So I
forgetting.
think she
Yeah.
knew, so.
But however, being on the outside as an audience member, black audience member, who's always confident that we'd run, we'd never drop, we'd never investigate. We're always like, them white people are crazy. We would never do that. But we're now placed in the position of,
Okay,
No,
yeah.
I don't know about going outside on my own with the. I don't know.
I'm not gonna sit there or somebody with a scissors, yeah. Oh yeah, I'm about to kill you, but let me just explain my plan. No.
she's just going to sit there.
But when they were
I mean, you're going to run.
Yeah, but when they were first on the lawn, first of all, the husband listened to me when leaving.
But hold on. No, wait,
To be fair, I'm not even going back to the beach. Why am I going back? I've experienced trauma there. Why am I
No,
actually
but
going
she
back?
want to go.
But she went. Why are they even there? Why are they on holiday
Why did she
there?
go? And also at that point as well, given what we know now, is that actually Adelaide was really red all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
The only reason why she didn't want to go to the beach is because she didn't want Adelaide to come find her.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
then why go back to? Okay, so
Yeah.
this is interesting. So why did she even in the whole thing? Because
Yeah.
it would have been her. Because we're assuming now, going back to this place to go, it's a family tradition. It had a family picture in the place, right? 'Cause that's her. So
that's
why
her
go back?
Yeah.
Actually, ever.
Exactly.
That's true. Like, what?
That was the thing that was bothering me actually. So
Yeah.
like, you keep coming back here.
But then
And
unless
you mean
she's
to tell me that
connected
all
to
the
that.
time that you've been coming back, you've just never gone to the beach, and it's 1 year.
But also, then we could then say she could have been drawn back annually. It could be a spiritual thing that she's drawn back. She's
I
the
think
tether.
maybe it's
So go on, Joe.
maybe it's something to do with, you know, the way that Gabe pulls his mask over his head at the end. Once, not Gabe, sorry, Jason. Jason, yeah. Once he's clocked who his mum is, it's this idea of ignoring inconvenient truths for the sake of your own comfort and privilege.
Interestingly true.
But you know what? I heard a theory. I looked up online, and there's a theory that that actually Jason was swapped out.
I think so
earlier.
too.
Yeah,
I
I think
thought
so.
so.
Oh.
Because he was like, there's just little clues to it, like him being offbeat, like with the
Yeah.
mother, him
There
being
was-
funny with his food,
And
like
their
the
connection.
mother. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
There was another theory that he's actually maybe on the autism spectrum as well. That
Oh, that's an
explains his
interesting one.
behaviour, which I thought was probably more big because I couldn't work out how they would have swapped him out.
Oh,
Because I was
because-
wondering that.
because,
Yeah.
the daughter actually talked about it. There was one time he got trapped in the closet. So, and when the mother died, when the grandmother died, and he was trapped for a little bit of time,
Yeah.
they couldn't get him out. So it was like the same amount of
I
time.
think
so
that-
I think he might have been switched out.
But yeah, I agree. And I'm going to say, but I didn't understand at the end then why he looked
Scared.
curious and scared, because it's like, is it because
that's
they've
not
had a
his
bond
origi-
the whole time?
But that's not his original mother. His mother is actually Adelaide, real Adelaide.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you think that?
So the boy that
Pluto
died was
was-
Jason. Yeah.
Oh. Oh.
It gets more.
Oh, mind blowing. Okay.
I mean,
Okay. I like that. I like that. I
Some
like
theories,
that. Because
man.
that means.
It's possible.
Wait, but what the burnt face then? So,
So
how did that
basically,
happen?
so you know the trick. So whatever you do.
yeah. So he got. Oh no. So
So-
the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's not that Jason's been swapped. He's been Jason, whichever Jason is, and he just realised that something's changed with the mother.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. No.
No, they've
They've been swapped.
They've been swapped. Yeah. They've been swapped. That's a theory anyway.
Yeah, but
It does kind of make sense only in the fact of that she focuses too much on the one child.
Yeah,
Even
way.
the daughter, she wasn't worried to send her running.
Not even are you?
She wasn't.
Yeah,
I get they wanted her to run track here, but that's
Yeah.
the worst way to practice. Like, come on.
Yeah. No, I didn't like that either, because I was thinking specifically, would I send my daughter? I don't even think I would even have the thought. Run. Where? If she gets you, what? Then I've sent my child away. Then
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, that was mad.
I need to get back to Jason. I don't get it. I think he's an other, but I don't know which other he is.
I think who you see.
So he's tethered. The
Yeah.
one in the real world now is
The one
tethered
in the real
Jason.
world is
Tethered
yes.
Jason.
Yeah.
And he's realising now that his tethered mother is
yeah.
back. But he doesn't
Yeah.
realise she.
No, that.
That he's
Wait.
he's all gone too much.
Shade, you're saying that
Yes.
tethered Jason is in the real world now, and he's looked up and realised, wait a minute, this woman isn't
isn't who I thought she was. She's actually
she's actually
my
the same
tethered-
person as well.
Huh?
She's a tethered mum.
Yeah. Basically, they come from the same world, both of them.
Ah.
I see.
Yeah.
Are there any other theories that you guys have heard before we give the kind of final roundup? Actually, no. Okay. Let's talk about what you liked about it, and throw in some of the theories that you like. Some of the wildest or theories or thoughts that you thought about what this film means. We haven't really talked about what this film actually means to you, metaphorically.
You know what? Sorry, it's not really what I like though. Sorry,
Oh,
but it's just the point about the hands across America. I just thought that is just really just lost on us, because if you're not really either from that time or American, then that kind of real big significance, like that really, run through the whole film. It's just like, what?
I
Do you
got
know
it
what I mean?
because
I
I
got
grew up African American. Basically, a lot of British kids from our generation, we grew up African
I was
American.
like, oh, it's like that coke ad.
Yeah. And also, I felt like it also, for me, represented the wall that Trump wants to build.
Yeah.
So I think it had political themes, and I thought this whole America being great and us being US.
Especially when they said, oh, let's escape to Mexico.
Oh yeah, it was
felt
like
out.
it was such. It's like he did some really on the nose political things. It's like Spike Lee's message to Trump or to the voters for Black Klansmen. That was literally a Trump campaign, anti-Trump campaign for white people to kind of see this racism from our perspective by placing Adam Driver as the ringer. Anyway, that's Black Klansman.
I don't know.
However, I just thought that
It just doesn't make. It just didn't.
it made sense to me.
Yeah, and also you've got to factor in, he didn't make the movie for us Black British ones, but like you,
No,
Black British American.
Yeah, man. I think it's a generational thing. Because I recognised that and I got that, and
Yeah, 'cause I didn't remember it being called Hands Across America, but I'm pretty sure this is a real thing. So I googled it.
Yeah.
Definitely, I've seen it. Yeah. So.
But the thing is, it's like the organisation being like, it was about like giving back to the poor and like joining together and stuff and everything like that. But how does that relate into the theme of like the haves and the have-nots and all that kind of stuff? I just thought if I knew that, then maybe it would be more powerful for me.
Okay.
Because I didn't, it was just like, this is a bit
Didn't get it.
nuts.
What did you guys like about the film? The younger guys. I'm going to call you the younger guys patronisingly.
I like obviously I like the fact that it was a black family just doing regular, like just the fact that it was just going on holiday and then everything went wrong. That's what I liked about it, just because I don't quite see a lot of black families just doing regular stuff. And even though okay, how do I say this? It's a terrible thing to happen, but essentially it was good to see a regular black family having a regular bad day.
An extremely irregular
bad
day.
day.
Bad, but it was just regular things happening, and it was like kind of cool to see. So I actually really like that about it.
What about you, Steph?
Yeah, I like the whole black family aspect. I think I like the fact that they all didn't die as well.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Jordan said he did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All didn't die.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. As I said before, my favorite character was the girl, the young girl.
Why was she everyone's? Because everyone's really resonated with her.
The way she did the double as well,
Yeah, she was
I
good.
can't lie, I was scared.
I believed her through and through.
I was thinking, no, like, because when I left this, when I left the cinema actually, when we watched it, I wasn't even scared about the tether thing. I was just scared that I was gonna see her character or Lupita. I was just like, that's the only thing. But I wasn't like worried about that whole tether thing going on. Like that didn't really.
Yeah.
You don't think you got a double? You stay
Like
there.
two things that scared me, Lupita's voice.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I can't.
What was the name
That
of the
scared
syndrome
me.
that she was inspired by? That now she had to apologise for using.
Yes.
Let's get the name.
Oh, I don't know. How do I search
There
that?
was some backlash.
And then, what was the other thing? I've got 5 on it. Can't listen to that again.
I can. I think that's wicked. I think that's a genius remix. Do you know how much I love that tune and the remix? And this remix is leveled. Fantastic.
No, it's good.
Fantastic.
But Lupita was good. I really liked her. I thought she done really well.
I liked the movie. I thought it was really good. I liked the way that, like as I said, it was a black family being regular until the very unregular happened to them and they had to survive it. I really liked the messages around privilege, in that we all have privilege, and there is a sector of society that are marginalised and isolated that we forget about and abandon, and the idea of the other coming back, which plays to the fears that is very prevalent now in the political landscape about the other coming back to kind of say reclaim space or claim space, however you want to see it. So yeah, I really enjoyed those things about it, and yeah, it was fun. Despite the fact that I came away kind of troubled, but it was fun.
Joe, what did you think?
I mean, the I Got Five on It remix. If anything, that film was entirely worth it for that.
Yeah.
I really, just as a normal, like without any kind of political or anything, which I get is missing the point, but without anything, it was just a really good horror film. Like it was a good slasher. But apart from that, yeah, I think I really enjoyed the second time around, knowing what was coming, actually having to realise that you need to look at each of those characters in two ways. Like, you can't just root for them or call them evil. You need to do both. And you need to really, I think the whole point of that film is Peele asking us to take a look at ourselves and how we take up space and how the information we choose to ignore or choose to make valuable. I really enjoyed it as a kind of wake-up call in that way. I think overall it was a great film.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I had to watch it twice too, because I think the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, it's just a horror film, and I didn't want to deal. Everyone kept saying, "What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?" And I was like, I just want to go home. It's a horror film, and leave it at that. Because actually, I think you can walk away and not have to deal with the layers. You don't have to, and I think that's what makes it such a good film. Is like you can take it for what it is, a bog standard horror, or if you want to go deep, you can go deep. Second time around, I saw so many things, and some things that I missed before, and I kind of. Then I started to read the think pieces of like, okay, the metaphors and everything jump out at me even more now. And I just like that it's a multi-layered film. I think Jordan gives us the seeds for us to think. And I think that's a great filmmaker. Instead of telling us what to do, he's like, and maybe even some of the theories that some of us have come up with are even more than he ever expected. So I think that's better as well, because it's like he learns and it gives him material for the next stuff, for the next film and stuff like that. And just to go back to what Lupita, the disorder is called, it's a larynx disorder called spasmodic dysphonia, and basically it's people who have suffered extreme trauma. They are not able to speak, and that's where she drew inspiration for Adelaide's Red's voice, because basically people are saying from that community, from the organisation behind it. Hold on, let me get my facts right. In an interview, I'm going to read it. Right. In an interview with the New York Times, Nyong'o cited spasmodic dysphonia, which is a neurological disorder of which Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is one of the best known people affected, as a model. So the National Spasmodic Dysphonia Association, NSDA, criticised her, saying spasmodic dysphonia is not a creepy voice, it's not a scary voice, it's a disability that people are living with and they shouldn't be judged on. Jennifer Laszlo Mizrahi, president of non-profit activist group Respectability, had also protested, saying connecting disabilities to characters who are evil further marginalises people with disabilities who also have significant abilities and want to contribute to their communities just like anyone else. And I got that from the Guardian article by Andrew Pulver.
But I mean, she did go through trauma though, didn't she?
Exactly. And she's not specifically evil.
Is she? And the girl actually crushed her windpipe, does she not?
So she would have had
she might, exactly.
And Lupita's a thespian. She's going to go deep and do her research.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was intentional. That it was to come up as because she has that voice, she's evil. Yeah. I think it was. It just went with the background of the girl's story, because she was left there when she was young.
Sis is just pissed off.
I mean, it plays into this whole social media quick reaction. Maybe these guys haven't seen the film, but on a surface level, not everybody goes deep. So there are definitely going to be people in the playground, as it were. If someone is suffering from that, for example, they'd be like, "Ha, you sound like Lupita in that thing," and then teasing can occur. So I get maybe an explanation or conversation about it, and I get why Lupita's like, "Look, I wasn't trying to offend anybody. However, this might be super sensitive, but if I was someone suffering from that, I wouldn't want to say your upset is not worthy. You don't have the right to be upset about it." Somebody roll their eyes. Okay, so let's wrap this up. So we all like the film. What would you give it out of 100, Sade?
Ooh, can you come back to me? Sorry.
Stephanie. Toby.
Okay, I personally, just because I would give it a 75,
Okay.
just because I thought I was going to be really scared and I wasn't. I was more laughing than anything. So
Priscilla?
I'm gonna give it a 90 because I really enjoyed it. It doesn't get full 100 because plot holes. The explanations just bothered me. I was like, it doesn't make any sense.
Shada, you ready?
I'm going to go with 65
Because.
I think it could have been better, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stephanie?
I'll go with 70, only because I didn't really get the whole hands thing at the end.
Okay.
I think that was really important, but I didn't get it. Also, the rabbits. I get that it was their food, but other than that, I don't really know what they were.
Jordan said he's scared of rabbits, by the way. He says they're really evil creatures.
It's insane. Has anyone seen them lint rabbits for Easter? Because they're starting to creep me out now. All lined up in a row, and I'm just kind of going, no, we don't need to do this.
Yeah, I didn't. And I feel like there was maybe some too important bits, didn't get it. So, yeah, but I like the rest. So,
I'd give it.
70.
I'd maybe give it a 70, 72.
Which one?
Maybe a 75. Because I'm quite generous anyway in general. I'll give it a solid 75. I think it was a good film. I enjoyed it. I watched it twice and I wasn't bored. I jumped in all the right places. Actually, let me go up a bit. Let me go to 80 because I think Lupita acted her arse. I think everyone in the cast acted their arse off. I think Jason, but he was young, so the little bits where he was a little bit like, you know, you're a kid in acting. But other than that, I think everybody acted their asses off, and Lupita did the shit. And I think it's a great conversational piece. I think it makes you think about film in a different way. I think Jordan's on a roll with this. I want to know what his third film's going to be. I'm excited to have someone like this making films like this for us, by us. I'm on it. So 80, I think, is my mark. Joe, what do you say?
I'm going to say 85. I agree with you. I think as a piece of entertainment, it's fantastic. Like, I went to see it the second time and had as much fun. Acting is fantastic. Production is great. I think the only thing that is wrong with it is when you press on some of the themes a little bit more, a little bit harder. You get plot holes, and also I think it gets a bit vague when you're looking for societal or political explanations. It doesn't really. It's not as concrete as Get Out was.
Yeah,
so.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, on average, we're going to tally it up. What is it altogether?
Oh, 77.5%.
Okay, that's very good. Well done, class. 77.5%. And that's it. Thank you, guys. We will be back with more reviews. This is good.